Around the Cabin is recorded before a live internet audience. Be part of the show. Post comments and questions to the host and other viewers. Go to aroundthecabin.com/campfire.
Bunch of redneck Robin Hoods. Bunch of redneck Robin Hoods. Hey, we're living good. Back in the woods.
Talk Brazil.
Hey guys, how are you doing?
And all clean shaven and nice looking.
Oh yeah, I think I'm looking a little bit. I look a little bit younger now, don't I?
Don't rub it in. Don't rub it in, okay? All righty.
So
well, I'm glad we got all this taken care of. We're in here, so we may have to do this for next week or so. Also, I don't know what's going to happen yet. We're having a new computer built. They are working on that as we speak. I don't know when they'll have it done, so it may be this way also. The only thing we cannot do here is we cannot show video. We can show still pictures, but we cannot show video. All right, Giuliano, your show. What do you want to do?
Okay, yeah, just finished talking about the contents of my survival kit. And we discussed all those, we've been discussing all those several items regarding shelter, water, fire, and yada yada. Now we're about to talk about something which is very important and could be rather troublesome for people who are not used to navigating in tropical forests, tropical areas. I'm talking about navigation here first, and being able to use a compass. Now, a lot of people in modern days tend to think that if you have like a GPS, or there are actually several models and that will do a lot of stuff for you, not only pinpoint your position, but they will actually, you know, help you out in a lot of ways, which is awesome, especially if you are there in the States. And we have to understand that those devices, those machines, they were created in America, and they use American satellites. So for people in the United States or certain other areas of the world, the GPS system will work much more accurately than it does down here in Brazil. I'm not talking about that we have a very big gap in those measurements, but it does measure your position more accurately in your, if you are, for example, in North America, than it does if you're here in Brazil. There's a few meters or a few yards of difference if you try that. But that's not the problem. That's not the issue. The issue is a lot of people tend to believe that once they have a reliable GPS, they got a good one, they are used to using it in the States. And let's remember, people, for those of you guys who haven't been following these discussions here, we're talking about the approaches that especially people who are not used to the Brazilian biomes would have to have if they decided to come visiting us down here in Brazil and wanted to bring like a survival kit. So we're discussing some of those things. And
we got down to what, water last time?
I think so. I don't remember. I think it was water. Yeah, I think we
Yeah,
talked about.
water. We have all the pictures of the water purification tabs and everything you've given us. And the first thing somebody asks in the room, Kevin Boy wants to know about a machete.
Well, machete was the very first item we discussed when we started this, and it's your number one primary tool in any tropical areas, any tropical forest that you are, because it will allow you to perform a whole range of tasks which will affect your survival directly. I'm talking about building a shelter, making fire if you have the right conditions. For example, if it's dry season, you know the wood, and you have a whole lot of favorable conditions, you might be able to affect your survival by making fire primitively. If all those aspects are favorable, like I've mentioned, you can also get some water from water vine and all that. But you can also do something which, for example, a survival knife won't allow you to do in a tropical environment like that. And I think you can figure out what it is. I'm talking about navigating and cutting your way through the heavy underbrush, the vines, and all the tangle and the mesh that the tropical forest can become sometimes. Sometimes you can pretty much, find your way without much of a trouble, but sometimes it's just crazy if you try to navigate through all the stuff that you find there. But in many occasions, you don't have many of an option. Sometimes, I think I've mentioned that here before too. The very first time Mac and I went camping, we went, for like a 6-day trip in the Atlantic forest. And dudes, there was a part of that mountain which was choked with taquara, which is a taquaril here. Taquara is like this bamboo-like plant, but it is thinner. It's not as thick as bamboo. But when you try to cut it, it breaks it and it splits into a mesh like that, and you have to cut it and hack through it, and it's just heavy work. And if you don't have a machete on you, you are in trouble. You're not walking through that stuff at all. So a machete will, be your number one primary tool in any tropical environments. And I believe I can say that it goes not only for Brazil but for all these other tropical areas we have in the world, because that's just the way those places work. You know. However, as a person who has been studying primitive skills and all that, and has been reading and doing some research, it's hard not to find yourself trying to figure out how those primitive Indians and the indigenous population that first occupied those areas would actually navigate and find their way through some really difficult places without any metal tools, any cutting metal tools that they could use. And I think that would have been something interesting to learn and find out. I know that in places like in China and some other parts of the world where they had bamboo, they would make knives out of bamboo. And for anybody who has, dealt with bamboo to a degree, you might have experienced some minor cuts, on your fingers or in your hands, because of that. That stuff is sharp. It is really sharp because of the silica material present in it. So it makes for something really sharp, really hard, I'm sorry. And it can dull your machetes, your knives really easily. So bamboo is something that will, if you were, actually cutting a lot of bamboo with a machete or even an axe, you will be retouching the edge sooner than you expect, because that stuff is just crazy. It is so, harsh on the edge of your tools. It's just nuts. You have to have like sharpening implements, not only having the tools, but also having the means to restore the edge on your tools. That's a major aspect for anybody, carrying blades into the bush, using blades into the bush. And again, when we look back into the past, into archaeological record, we see that, for instance, Otzi, the Iceman, attached to his survival belt, he had like a flint dagger and a retoucher, like what do you call those? That piece of wood with a bone stuck in the middle that used to retouch the edge on his stone tools, like a flint, like pressure flaker. That's what you call that, a pressure flaker. And what is a pressure flaker? It's a primitive way to restore the edge to your tool. So again, you know.
But in your area, you don't have stones.
I do. Well, who said I don't? I do.
Excuse me. In the forest area that we had talked about before, you didn't have stones.
In the Amazon.
It depends. In the Amazon. It depends on the zones you're in.
That's right. In the Amazon, that's a serious problem for those.
So you think they would have done it by trade?
Oh, for sure. They only the very first time they ever saw metal. I'm talking about the Brazilian Indians, because back in
well, yeah, but with the different biozones, do you think they traded from one? The guys in the Amazon would trade with the guys in the shoreline, and they would get stuff back and forth, and they would go that route, and they would be able to transfer stones over, making whatever they made, so they would have stone blades.
I want to be realistic. I want to be honest. When we talk about Amazon populations, Amazon tribes, we are talking about a world of different people, different language, and different I am not the best person to actually pinpoint all those differences accurately, because there are so many different ways to see, their own relation with nature. For example, let me just give you in the upper Xingu, you have a whole, set of tribes and indigenous population, and they tend to look down at the way the indigenous population that live in the lower Xingu live, because they, for example, the lower Xingu Indians will, for instance, eat certain types of animals that the upper Xingu Indians don't. And these guys above those guys eating those weird animals down there, these guys here, they say, come on, what's wrong with those guys? They eat that kind of animal, and that's weird. For those, so you have those differences.
But we had here historically in the United States, our native indigenous or Native Americans, they knew of who do I want to say? They knew of the Incas.
Oh yeah.
They traded. They had coffee. They had cocoa leaves. They knew these different things. That they knew what chocolate was. They had traded thousands and thousands of miles into the interior of the United States. So I'm wondering if, as you said, how did they get through the Taquada down there, going through that? Well, why didn't one tribe trade with another tribe for stone implements to cut through it?
Oh, dude, seriously? Stone implement to go through Taquada? I would like to see that. Seriously, because
I'm just saying. I mean, I don't know if it was possible. I'm just saying. Do you think they tried that? Somebody said, "Hey, I'll trade you this for some of them stone knives, and we'll try it."
I think, well, seriously, I put some serious thinking in that issue on that thing, because what I think that those indigenous people did is they avoided certain areas, or either they went around it, or they found their way through it, because I don't see any, or either they had like a big stick that they hacked through the heavy underbrush.
No, it's not going to work. Not going to work. You couldn't beat your way through that with a club.
Sometimes you don't have to cut your way through if you can just push the stuff to the side and make a way through just by pushing, shoving it to the side. I'm not saying that you can always do that. It is easier than chopping the stuff, but I've done it sometimes. I found, seriously, I'm not BSing you guys. I have found myself in situations which it was easier to push the stuff to the side than trying to cut my way through it.
Right.
It was less energy, and I would get myself more easily in spending less energy than if I was trying to ninja sword those things. And
I understand.
people did, Rich, but I doubt they did it. They were able to cut their way through taquara, for instance, with any stool implements, because any, let's say, stone tools implements that were strong enough to do it, that would be like a stone axe. And an axe, there's just
well, I have another question for you.
Oh yeah, go on.
Thinking about this historically, and you and I both love the history part, so that's why I'm bringing this up.
That's right.
What about, would you think, now how tall are you?
I don't know in feet, but I'm 1.87 meters tall.
All right.
1 meter, 0.87 centimeter.
Okay, so I'm like 5'7".
Uh-huh.
Okay, so my question is, the average person centuries ago was usually shorter than the other people.
That's
and
right.
Those indigenous, the indigenous natives were not as average. I mean, there were some big guys, but average, they were thinner than us, shorter than us, and you know, their muscle mass was different than us.
Oh yeah, you're right. You're right. That's
so
why
I'm wondering if them going through it would be easier than you and me.
Yeah, that's why I said that, because I myself, being tall like this and with a bigger body than those people would probably have, I sometimes find it easier for myself to, like I said, to push stuff to the side and go through rather than cutting through. So why wouldn't those, you know, thinner, smaller people find the same way, you know, through that stuff? Because I don't know, or maybe because they were born there, they had developed, you know, a much more detailed eye to the environment. They were able to actually see easier, you know, easier ways, an easier path to follow, rather than, you know, someone who's got a machete and thinks it's easier just to chop whatever you find in front of you. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah.
There are all those things, but definitely having a machete on you in the bush, pays off. Totally makes a difference. And I've heard stories of people, you know, like they were in this one last second decision. You have to either save your backpack or save your machete. They went for the machetes because with the knowledge they got, they would be able to, you know, bushcraft all their needs just using the machete. So machete is the way to go.
Well,
Except there's a pair of good boots here.
Well, let's talk about something that affects the major thing, water. We've gotten through the machete. We've gotten through that stuff. I'm glad that they brought that up again so we could touch back on that. But we gotten to the point of water last time.
Yes,
and we talked about you and Mac down there, especially Mac drinking water, the fact that he physically could not put the water in fast enough at one point. And we have pictures of some of your water purification items and some of the other goodies here that we didn't get to last week. I wanted to get back to and go through that way. The water stuff down there. And then everybody thinks it rains down there, so there's plenty of water. And that's not true. I mean, there may be water, but it may not be suitable to drink. There may be water, but it may be in poisonous plants.
Exactly.
There may be water, but it's full of bugs, like we talked about last week. Everything goes to water. Everything wants the water the same as you want the water.
That's right. Water is life everywhere in the planet. Life, you know, evolved around water. Water, you know, is I don't even have to emphasize how important it is. And people are right. Actually, they are partially right, because when they say, well, there's going to be plenty of water in any tropical environment. Yes. But like Rich has very wisely, you know, pointed out, just because there's water available, it doesn't mean that you can actually drink straight from the source without, you know, being concerned about the origins, what problems you might find in that water. Because if you okay, let's say rainwater, we have discussed that, but it pays off going back a little bit just to emphasize it again. Rainwater is totally, you know, potable if you can collect it straight from the sky without the water, going through the canopy. Because once it goes through the canopy, it will wash down all the stuff which is being, collected in the canopy, on the leaves. And I'm talking about animals that copulate in there, dust and dead debris, dead bugs, dead animals. God knows what is rotten up there in the canopy. So all that stuff will be washed down by the rainwater. So if you drink out of that water, it is no good. That would be the same as drinking water straight from the ground, because it will be as bad as the one you get from the ground.
Kevin Boy just put in a room, dig for water in the jungle.
I'm sorry?
Kevin Boy put in a room, dig for water in the jungle.
Dig for water. You could dig for water, but again, that doesn't mean that the water will be rid of what do you call pathogens, those microorganisms that could cause you disease. There are certain. I do drink from, let's say, straight from certain sources in the jungle when I know that location is like a seasonal seasonal spring. For example.
How fast do the plants suck up the water out of the jungle floor?
Well, it stays there for quite a while, because all the canopy will prevent the sunlight and the wind from acting upon the water. So it tends to. That's the problem with collecting wood that's been laying on the ground in the jungle ground, because it rottens up so fast. It's so damp. The ground is so damp. It has so much life, so many bugs, and all that stuff will chew up.
So what's on that canopy floor that water's going through?
Well, dude, you have dead.
I couldn't just dig a hole and put my face down in there and take a slurp, right?
I mean, you could. I mean, if you have no other. This is.
Am I gonna want to?
No, seriously. I mean, I know of other sources more reliable in the jungle than what would go for before I dug myself a hole in the ground and I tried to suck water out of this strait, because I might, have no problem, but I might find myself, in some deep stuff if I have like dysentery. Is that what you call it? Dysentery?
Yeah, dysentery. You got Giardia. You got all the.
I mean,
everything off the canopy. Everything off the canopy is going to get washed down onto the ground. All the bugs, all the animals, everything else is down there.
I'll tell you what, maybe, if, for example, for some reason I couldn't find any water vines, or I had no means to get the water from the water vines, and it didn't rain, I found no springs, no river, nothing, no source of water. I could, if I thought that the air would be damp enough, I would probably, dig myself a hole and see if I could get any water from that hole and drink it. But that doesn't mean that I would have no problem. That would be a desperate solution, right? Because what could happen is, all right, I'll take care of my thirst or my hydration problem immediately, at first, but then I will, have like a dysentery or something which will actually worsen up my conditions if I dehydrate, because that will make me dehydrate much faster. And if I drink that water and I get sick, then I might as well, start praying and make peace with God, because I will have worked against my chances of survival. So, however, water, everybody knows the importance of water, how important it is for a human body to survive. You have to take on account that it can fasten your death if you drink messed up water. Because God knows what microorganisms will be there. You don't know if there was a dead animal like a few yards above where your area, and all the stuff that was inside the carcass was washed to the spot where you decided to drink from. It's a shot in the dark. You're taking your chances. You're playing with your life. And like I said, I will have a blade on me. It doesn't have to be a machete. If I have a pocket knife, if you have like a Swiss Army knife with the saw, you might be able to cut some vines and get some water. It's not easy. It would be easier with a machete or a big survival knife. But if you have any metal blades, any metal tools, you might be able to get water from the vines, and then you don't have to drink to take your chances in the ground. Or if you are in the Amazon, you will get rained on. No, I mean seriously, you will. In my area here in Brazil, central Brazil, Minas Gerais, it rains a lot in the summer, which is December, January, February, March. Yeah, we get rained on pretty heavily here during those 4 months. But then in July, June, at least in my area, central Minas, we got very little rain in the middle of the year. So you cannot count on rain to take care of your hydration problem if you find yourself in my area in the middle of the year. Whereas if you are for example now, no problem, man, you're gonna get rained on for sure. So you can probably drink straight from the rain if you can get like a clear spot in the canopy where the rain will come through. Yeah, but that water is definitely an issue. And
Mr. Wilderness in the room he said, and besides that, you don't know if the idiot that was there before you didn't take a big, what in the middle of the area. Well, you don't know. I mean, you dig a hole and you're drinking whatever's out of there. So I've got a picture here of your kit.
I don't know. It might be my first aid kit, Rich, because I don't remember sending you pictures of my.
I've got a picture of your water kit here. Hold on.
A water kit? I don't know.
Yeah, let me see what I got here. I'll bring this up. You'll be able to see it. I'll be able to see it.
Right.
Oh, wait a minute. Not that way.
I think it is my first aid kit, which is one of the items we will be discussing tonight. But well. Oh, if you see any stage there, it's my first gate. Hold
on. I get this to come up. All right. Got this nice little water kit here.
No, I told you, it's my first aid kit.
Is that what that is? First aid kit? I thought it was your water kit.
Yeah, however, you are partially right because you see the tiny little white, pills. They are water purification tablets, but that's the only water. And there, of course, there's iodine in a black glass container in the back. Could also be used to treat your water. But also, other than that, I don't have any other water implements in that kit. But as we are talking about the first aid kit, well, what you want to do? What do you want to do, man?
God, well, whatever you do, just keep going the way you got. Those are the pictures I had for you. I thought that was part of your water kit because I saw number 5 here had the iodine, and I didn't know if that was cotton stuffed in the tube or what you had over there also.
No, well, we're going to be discussing that a little bit.
All right, go ahead.
Well, let me keep talking about the navigation issue here because it's something that people tend to neglect. Let me just tell you straightforward. I want to be straightforward here. Do not rely on your GPS systems, machine. It doesn't matter how good it is, how much you paid for it, who made it. I don't care if the President of the United States himself would be given one of those and if he had to navigate in the jungle, but it will fail him, hopefully. And it will fail anybody. It will fail anybody who depends on that, right? Why? Because sometimes the canopy is so thick. The canopy is so, thick that the satellites won't be able to to triangle, because that's what they do. They have like three satellites.
Yeah, the satellite signal won't be able to penetrate through that.
Yeah, they will be trying to pinpoint your position through the canopy, and they won't be able to do that. You might, at certain areas where the canopy is not so thick, or you might have like an opening in the canopy, you might be able to pinpoint like one position on your route, but this is not something you can rely on, definitely. So what should you do? What should you do first? Well, maps. Sometimes it is hard to get a good map here in Brazil with accurate details and telling you all the stuff that you got. Definitely, it's not as accurate as you can probably get there in the States where I've been told people can get some really detailed maps. Here in Brazil, you might find detailed maps if the area has been explored before, but it might be difficult. It's not something you can depend on and count on either.
because
So
because not all the areas have been explored.
no, no, or it is that tough. It is that hard. And being able to read a compass, is it still your better choice? Is it still the best way for you not to get lost in the jungle? But remember, using a compass, it's not like I've heard so many students and people in general saying, okay, here I am lost in the middle of the jungle. Now I have a compass. What do I do? Bro, if
Pick a direction.
or if you decided to check your position, once you got lost, there's not much you can do with your compass. Because,
Mr. Wilderness says landmarking is an excellent skill to learn. The problem within a jungle, a compass will tell you which direction you're going. It won't tell you where you are. It'll just give you a direction to go in and keep you going in that direction. As
exactly,
far as landmarks in the jungle, you can't see the landmarks because of the jungle. If we're
exactly.
talking real jungle, you're not going to see the landmarks.
Well,
So,
as a practical solution for that problem, what we do here when we have to navigate relying on the compass, which we hardly ever do. This is something which I want to stress out here. I hardly ever use a compass because the areas I go to are places which I am familiar to, and I have mentioned that here before. I'll say it again here tonight. I usually navigate through ways, through a path that runs down the jungle because that saves me hours of work and chopping, and I don't have to do that. So I hardly ever use a compass here. But if I do, what I do is I know, for example, let's suppose I am at camp and I want to see what I have, I don't know, down this direction here. So before I leave camp, I take an azimuth, see what direction I want to go, see what azimuth it is, and I follow down that direction. I might have to change I might not be able to follow a straight azimuth because a whole lot of stuff that I might find in the jungle, like fallen debris, fallen tree, crevices, and God knows. So I might have to negotiate some obstacles, so that makes it even harder for you to navigate and depend on a compass. And if I want to return, I want to find my way back to my camp. All I have to do is read the opposite direction as the first one I was following. So I just have to follow 180 degree opposite to that direction I was before, and that should bring me back to my original camp. But then people say, all right, once you are following down an azimuth and you're navigating, you might even be able to take, for example, visual landmarks like a tree or like a termite nest or something that might help you, giving you like some direction. But this is not something which you can rely on all the time. And if you have to navigate through, let's say for some time, how far can you can tell your distance in the jungle? How far will you navigate? How far?
how long did it take you to get through the Taquara?
Well, yeah, depends on how big the Taquaril is, man. I'll tell you that.
100 yards in a day, we're doing good. Yeah.
I'm sorry?
100 yards in a day, we're doing good.
All right, all right.
So, but I mean, that's, basically, like you said, cutting a path and going that path, following streams and rivers and other things, which have always been nature's highways through those areas.
Yeah, definitely, definitely. But the problem here in my area, rivers are a good idea. They will most likely, in most cases, lead you down to a place, to a little house, any little village or whatever. Whereas in the Amazon, that's a different ball game, my friend. Seriously. The Amazon and even Pantanal, those are very wild places. And I have to admit that the level of danger in those areas is a way higher than in the areas in the area where I am. And I got some pretty spooky animals and snakes and stuff here in my area too. I'm not saying the bushes I go to are tamed, are okay, are nice and mellow. It's like a cakewalk, no way. But definitely the Amazon forest, the Amazon environment, and the Pantanal are some hardcore areas. And you might easily die there, like blinking in a blink, you will die, and before you know it, you're dead already. And I'm not exaggerating it either. I'm not trying to make it sound worse than it is. It is that bad. It is that wild. It is that deadly. Whereas, again, if you have to navigate depending on a compass, it's hard work too. So don't think just because you have a compass and you know how to read a compass and you take the right steps, you start reading your azimuth before you start navigating, it's going to be an easy work, because it is not. Anybody, now let me be realistic about this again. Anybody who has been to any tropical environments like the ones we got here and has had to navigate using a compass and measuring your steps with the ranger beads, the pace counter, which is a very good way to help you measure distances here in this area. However, in very choked areas, some choked parts of the jungle, it makes it no practical use. You have no very practical use of the pace counter because it's just messy. But for anybody who has been to those navigating in these areas, people know how tough it is. Navigating, reading your azimuth, negotiating obstacles, counting down your steps, and checking doing the stuff on your, controlling the distance on your ranger beads. It sucks big time. You have to be focused all the time. If you're doing the work alone, let's say you're lost and you have the compass, you have your ranger beads, your pace counter, and you know how to do it, you've done the training, and you think you're good to go, you will be facing a real painful work, because it's a pain in the butt, counting that stuff, checking your azimuth, negotiating obstacles, and it's just not fun at all. So navigating in the jungle, if you have to, with a compass, is a hard work, but it's better than with the GPS. It's still better than the GPS, and it's still more reliable. That's what I'm saying. Now, what do I do, Giuliano? Let's say I want to go to Brazil, and I want to, spend some time in the Amazon, and I want to visit the forest, or I want to go to the Pantanal. What should I do? Seriously, what I would do as a Brazilian myself, I would hire a local guide, a local expert, someone who knows the area, someone who knows the danger, the local dangers, who will actually be able, someone who you can actually rely on once you are out there. Because once you step in the bush, you will be, dependent on people who know the area well, because you just don't know what surprise that bush will bring you, and it brings surprises to people who are not really prepared for those areas. So if you want to go there, take your survival kit, take your compass, take your ranger beads, take your GPS if you want, but hire a local guide. Be there with someone who knows the area, who will probably, hopefully, prevent you from getting lost and putting yourself in a survival situation. That's the best. Honestly, that's the best. That's the best way to go.
They're talking in the room. They're talking about being able to tell where they are by the date, the time, and the latitude. And one of them said that with one gentleman, Mr. Wilderness, says he can usually tell by the sun, by looking up at the sun, with what time it is within anywhere from 5 to 15 minutes. He can usually tell what time of the day it is. I said I can tell what time of the day it is in the sun within 30 seconds because I just look at my watch. It's much easier to read in the sunlight.
I'll tell you what, come down to a jungle area where the canopy is so thick and try to tell what time it is. You know, this is something I would like to see unless you can't. I'm not exaggerating it, guys. You know, the canopy, the jungle canopy, it's not like you have a few branches here, scattered branches. No, it is a mesh. You know, a mesh, a green mesh, a live mesh of animals and plants. There's a whole, let me tell you what, there's a whole area of biology, there's a whole range of biologists who devote their lives only to studying what happens in the canopies. Because the canopies, you know, the jungle canopy itself, it's a whole biome. I don't know if that would be the correct scientific way to define it, but it's a whole environment itself. There are animals.
There are plants and animals and that never reach the ground that live up there in the canopy.
That's right. That's right. There are things that only happen up there, plants that only develop and grow up there, animals that depend on that very biome to live their lives, and they never go down to the forest ground. So seriously, having the sunlight to go through that canopy is something really difficult. Of course, it all depends, you know, what kind of well, there's a whole, you know, set of variation, things that can affect what I'm talking about here, the thickness of the canopy. But in general, I can tell you that even here in my area, where there's only 10% of the original Atlantic forest left, you will not be able to see the sun that easy. I'm not exaggerating it. Seriously.
And there are parts of it that are so thick that you won't get wet when it rains. Easy.
That's the dang thing, because you do. On the 23rd of December, I was actually camping in a city about, I don't know, let's say 60 miles away from where I live, and I was right in the middle of the rainy season here in Brazil, and it rained on me all the time. And I remember that, you know, for like 1 hour there was like the rain stopped, and I decided to go for a walk around the place where I was camping just to see what it looked like. And as I was, you know, checking the area about, let's say, 100 meters from my camp, one of the heaviest rains I've ever seen in my life in the bush fell on me, man. And I thought, okay, the canopy here is so thick, it should, I know, protect me, but baloney. In a few seconds, I was totally soaked and wet.
No, you know it was so thick it kept the water off you. You know that.
I mean, if you have like maybe some banana leaves,
banana leaves.
It is bad, man, because you will get wet, you will get rained on. You'll
get rained on even after the rain. It'll dribble it down, drop down, drip through.
Perfect. You nailed it. Yes.
I know. I'm pulling your leg with that other stuff. Yeah.
All right.
That's good. Yeah. It's yeah. You'll be like, where does water come from? Does something just urinate on me? And no, it's just water finally working its way through and dropping down. A leaf decides to bend low enough and let that water roll out.
Because you look up, and all you see is this.
Don't look up. You never look up in the forest. It's like looking up at, don't look up.
No, I mean, you don't have to look straight up. You know what I'm saying? But you look up and you see this moving green mesh, and the water it looks like the water is passing straight through it. And it looks and it feels like there's nothing. That's the crazy thing about the jungle canopy. Because the water which has been getting on you is the water that has been filtered through the canopy first. It's not the water which is getting on the canopy at that very moment, but when it falls on you, it feels like it's being straight from the sky. And I mean, how can it be possible that thick canopy is there and the water it still hits me so heavily like that? But that's just the way it is, man. I'm not exaggerating it. Seriously.
Yep.
All right.
And remember, everything else wants that water that's falling on you. So then all the bugs in that want to come get you because you're wet and you taste good.
Yeah. Thank you. Same here.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah.
Oh, saltwater sweat. Yeah, I love that. Yeah.
All right.
There you go. Yeah.
You know, navigation, people. I think I have, you know, emphasized it enough. How I have stressed here the importance of having a compass, being able to use your compass. Even if you have like the Ranger beads, the pace counter, it's still hard work. Bring your GPS if you have one, if you want to, and maybe you will be able to pinpoint one or two position points there. But don't rely on a GPS. Seriously, whenever
I
you
think
go,
what I want to navigate through the jungle is either a backpack full of batteries and a good flashlight,
oh yeah, that's for sure.
or a bunch of really big torches. Because I don't like the dark in the jungle. That's
No, that's no good. That's no good. Yeah, so that's all for navigation. Just make sure you have a good compass. Don't rely on maps. Don't count on maps either. You might not even be able to find a badly done map. Oh, that reminds me of something which is crazy. Crazy. I saw this story on Discovery Channel a few years ago about this American couple. They were like a boyfriend and girlfriend. They came down to the Amazon to have like a honeymoon trip, and they rented a bungalow, like a cabin in the middle of the jungle, and there were several trails that would take them to certain spots in the jungle, and if they kept walking on the trail, no problems. But once one day they decided to go for like a 2-hour hike down a trail. The guy took like a compass. The guy took a map and like a pocket knife. The girl was on medicine, but she didn't have any medicine because it was just for a 2-hour hike. So no need for medicine, no need for food, nothing. They left the place and went, taking pictures, in the forest, in the jungle. Oh, biodiversity, so cool. What happened is they stepped out of the trail and didn't realize it. When they finally saw what was going on, they were in the middle of the jungle with no idea where they had come from. And the guy, so he said, "Oh no, wait a minute. I have a map and I have a compass, and I did take my my azimuth before I left the cabin. So what I have to do here is look at the map. All right, everything would have worked out perfectly for these two guys if the guys here in Brazil who printed out the map, it was actually the hotel, whatever it was, hired an artist to make a map of the area, and the artist, being an artist, decided that the whole environment would look better if he inverted the position. And when the guy was looking at his map and seeing north, he was actually going south. So instead of going back to the place where he should have gone, if the map was
further away,
he went all the way distant. And the more they walked, the further they got for 6 days until the woman. And they had it's not funny. Seriously, I mean, if you just look for the thing on YouTube, it might be on YouTube. The ordeal they had.
Did they get out or did they die?
Miserable experience. On the 6th day, the woman said, "Listen, I don't want to live no more. We either are rescued today or you are going to kill me." And the guy said, "If I do that, I'll kill myself too because I don't want to go on with that." And they had found the river. And just before they went for the ultimate, step, which would be the worst thing to do, they saw this guy on a canoe, paddling down the river, and they started yelling and screaming, and the guy saw them and they went there and rescued them. And it was a miracle because according to this Brazilian fisherman, he said that part of the river where those guys were is not used during that time of the year. And he had no idea why on earth he decided to change his way on that day, changed his path, and took a different route in the river and found these two lost Americans there and rescued their butts. And now it all happened because the guy printed out a map upside down. And it wasn't that they neglected their navigation. I mean, come on, they had a map, they had a compass. You got a map and a compass, you know how to use it. You will hardly ever get lost unless it was made by an artist who thinks he should invert the poles.
Well, Giuliano, we are down to the last minute, brother.
All right, bro. Thank you a lot, man. Thank you a lot, Rich. It was a good talk tonight, as always.
We did. We covered a lot, and I think they learned some stuff, and they're going to watch their navigation when they come down there. Fix by Dot says he's learned some. He did really good. He won awards and that with Army navigation when he was in the military. That's very good. Very good. He showed up his instructor. That's cool.
That's cool. That's a very important skill to have down here. That's good.
Oh yeah.
All right.
There you go. Any questions for Giuliano tonight before we get out of here?
So last shot, guys.
There you go.